Good morning. Welcome to the Peorian. I'm your host, Paul Gordon. This is episode 52. The Peorian is a year old. It is hard for us here to believe that we've been broadcasting this show and publishing our magazine for a year. But you know the adage, time flies when you're having fun. And we thought it would be fun to recap our first year, follow up on some of the issues that were or still are relevant to all of us in Central Illinois. For example, we've tried to keep you up to date on economic development issues, like the Hotel Pier Marquette project. We had Gary Matthews, the developer of the project, on our show before ground was even broken on that project. Today it's well underway. A quick drive down Main Street downtown will reveal some of the progress. Another project we've kept up with is Museum Square. Most of you know that project, which includes the new Peoria Riverfront Museum and the Caterpillar Visitor Center, is only a month from opening. Ceremonies scheduled for October 20th will likely be quite elaborate, considering it will be the culmination of a project nearly a dozen years in the making. There are others, of course, like Caterpillar's plans to build a new headquarters downtown and East Peoria's new downtown project. When we come back, we'll update you on the status of those and on a couple of individuals, people who are important to the region. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Peorian, and thank you for joining us today as we recap our first year on the air. I remember wanting to make a pretty big splash for our first episode, which was broadcast September 18th, 2011. But I wanted it to be issue-oriented, so our viewers would see we weren't going to be off fluff. So we chose as our topic the local economy, something we knew to be on the minds of Central Illinois residents. To talk about it, our first guest was Jim McConaughey, president of the Heartland Partnership family of companies. There was nobody more up to date on the local economy than Jim. He talked about how the Peoria region had fared better than many other parts of the country during the recession that began in 2008. Because of that, the local economy was, by last year, in pretty good shape and poised for growth. Momentum was a key word at the time. Well, it still is today. Just look around you at all that is going on. McConaughey also told us how the Heartland Partnership was gearing up for its next 5 to 10 years with a new strategic plan in the works and projects in the offing. Well, by now, most of you know Jim McConaughey's momentum took a big hit several weeks ago. He resigned as president of the Heartland Partnership and its affiliated companies, including the Economic Development Council of Central Illinois. He said he believed it was in the best interest of the partnership that he do so. What was not said is that the reason his resignation was in the best interest of the partnership was that because there was otherwise going to be a battle for the partnership's survival that McConaughey didn't believe would be healthy for the organization or the community. Still, the Heartland Partnership will be dismantled, with the EDC for sure being split off and from the other companies in the family. And so will the Central Illinois Regional Port Authority, one of the entities that is gaining momentum with construction of a port in Pekin that will help the region become a major player in the waterway transportation of goods. We're still not clear on what all was wrong at the Heartland Partnership that caused this upheaval, including whether politics was somehow involved. But the reorganization of the region's economic development efforts is a story that we will follow closely. Meanwhile, McConaughey is soon to be a published author. A book he co-authored that was written before the upheaval began is due out next month. It's called The Wisdom of Failure: How to Learn the Tough Leadership Lessons Without Paying the Price. Don't you just love irony? McConaughey was also one of the 5 finalists for our inaugural The Peorian of the Year award. We had quite an impressive slate of finalists chosen from among 21 nominees submitted by our readers and viewers. The other 4 were former Caterpillar chairman and founder of Quest Charter Academy, Glenn Barton; Elite Core of Youth founder Carl Cannon; Peoria Park District Executive Director Bonnie Noble; and Dr. Jasti Rao, head of cancer research at the University of Illinois College of Medicine at Peoria. The winner, chosen by our readers and viewers in a vote on our website, was Dr. Rao. He and his researchers have discovered what could be a way to stem the growth of cancer cells. And because of him, Peoria is becoming one of the world's top cancer research centers. The school, with help from federal, state, and local governments, recently built a new cancer research center, and Dr. Rao is bringing top researchers to Peoria. Here is a clip from an interview we did with Dr. Rao last March, in which he discussed the possibility of a breakthrough in cancer treatment. Dr. Rao, in the time that you have been doing cancer research, there have already been some pretty amazing breakthroughs, but we still haven't had that one big breakthrough. Do you ever feel like you're just beating your head against the wall?
No, that's not true. As you know, a lot of things have changed. It is not like 20 years back or 30 years back. All the technology was improved and the research methods are improved and all the types of the things. Now we find out what genes are involved, what is not involved. So a lot of things changed. And then the survival rate also increased in each cancer patients.
So the advancements that we've seen in cancer research, cancer research, your own as well as others, do you feel that a major breakthrough is just around the corner? Is it going to happen soon?
It happens soon, but I'm not sure how long it takes.
Will it happen in our lifetime?
I'm sure, definitely, but as I told you earlier, we may not be able to cure cancer, but definitely survival rate is going to be increased drastically. Dr.
Rao chose the Children's Hospital of Illinois to receive a $10,000 donation from the Peorian as part of his selection as the Peorian of the Year. We soon will announce when nominations for the second annual The Peorian of the Year award are open. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Kevin Kaiser, our literary and culinary guy, and he's going to talk about his first year on the air and his year of making us laugh, and we hope read more, as well as what he has coming up. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Peorian. Today we are recapping our first year on the air, and right now I'm with Kevin Kaiser, who, as our regular viewers know, puts a unique spin on all things literary. Thanks for finally joining me on the set.
It's great to be here. I actually wore my best t-shirt today, just for you.
So, love it.
Yeah.
Kevin, wouldn't you say that one of your most popular segments that you do is Kevin reads stuff so you don't have to?
Oh, absolutely. That's the one that really most people bring up if they recognize me at all, which is rare. But no, Kevin reads stuff so you don't have to. It's where I take a book, usually a history book, and kind of distill it down to maybe an interesting story or two, so you get the main gist of the book without having to read it yourself.
Do people come up to you when they talk to you about it, do they say, I didn't know that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because I'm just able to, when I read these books, and I really do read them, I read them from start to finish, it's pulling out those unique things, those interesting things that you probably wouldn't hear about if you took this, studied this book in a class. They probably wouldn't highlight, so.
Wait. You really read all these books?
Oh, gosh, yes. I'm a freak. It's insane.
Are you a speed reader?
No. Actually, I've gotten to be a little bit better. I used to take notes constantly, which anybody who reads or writes knows that's laborious. So, I usually read about 50 or 55 books a year. I've always been that way as a writer growing up. Always went to the library as a kid with my dad. After baseball on Saturday, we'd go to the library. That was just kind of one of our things. So it's been ingrained in me from the get-go. So, yeah, I'm all in with the books.
Are you still old school enough that you read the physical book, or do you have an e-reader?
I have an e-reader on my iPhone, but yes, I still go with the physical books. I do not have any trouble with carrying a book around. I don't see why that's a big hassle. So I love e-readers, but I still haven't found that I need it. If I were a student, I would definitely have an e-reader, because then I could put all my books on a single device.
You go to the library?
Yes, I do. I love the North Branch. It's absolutely fabulous. If anybody has a chance, go out to see Peoria Library's northern branch.
It is a beautiful
It's
place.
absolutely unlike a library.
Yeah, it really is. More like I don't know, an insurance office or something.
Yeah.
when you walk
Well, a
in.
cafe, it's got the lounge type feel
Yeah.
to it. It's very nice. So.
What other segments are popular that you do?
A lot of the culinary things, people tell me all the time they want more of Kaiser Party of Four, which we're scheduling them. Trust me, we're scheduling them. We're going to make them happen. We're just, we have so many things we want to conquer.
Can you tell us yet where you're going to go?
No, I cannot, Paul. It's not even that I'd have to kill you. I'd have to take, your family would have to go as well, and even your pets.
I do hope that folks notice that when Kevin does one of these Kaiser Party of Fours, I'm never invited to go. Maybe he doesn't trust that I'll be able to keep it quiet long enough. I don't know.
You're too famous, Paul, to blow
Too
the cover.
famous, is that
Yeah.
it? Okay. When you do the Kaiser Party of Fours, what is your favorite part to do? Is it tasting the food or talking to the people about it?
I really like the idea we came up with. How great of me to say something like that. No, I like the idea that we're letting the restaurants put forth their best dishes. We're not going in there and demanding this, or this. We're telling them, you're a great chef, give us your best. So that to me is always exciting to see what the chef wants to prepare for us. So
put your best foot forward, their choice. Correct?
their choice, absolutely.
And when they do that, you can then honestly tell your viewers that this is what they say is their best thing.
Yes, this is what they're saying you should come here for.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What else have you got coming up in the next year?
Oh gosh, I have so much going on in the literary world. We have reviews. I have a personal friend, a high school friend who just had a book published, Jay Ponteri, that I'm going to be reviewing that very soon, so that's exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on with Central Illinois writers, particularly David Foster Wallace, even though he's been dead for a few years. There are new books coming out, and we're reviewing them on the website. We're doing a lot for the election, reading politically based books. I did Fear and Loathing on the campaign trail in 1972, where Hunter Thompson covered the McGovern campaign against Nixon, the failed McGovern campaign.
That will be in our next magazine.
That is in our next magazine.
Okay.
So,
Which is coming out soon. And do you have a segment for us today?
oh, that's right, I have to do that. Oh, okay, I'll be back. Okay, 3, 2, and... This week, I'm all about a couple of new books about a couple of great dead authors. In fact, two of my favorite dead writers of all time, George Orwell and James Joyce. Now, don't get me wrong, I like writers that are alive too, but so many of the great ones seem to be dead, especially the ones from the 19th century. It's weird. The first is the Diaries of George Orwell. Now, typically, if something is called Orwellian, it's kind of a negative. But if someone were to say your garden is completely and utterly Orwellian, that's actually a compliment. It's because in his diaries, it shows Orwell had as much an affinity for the natural world as he did for politics. He was very much a Jeffersonian man. He was an enlightened thinker who also loved to raise animals and cultivate vegetables, plants, and flowers. This is evident in Animal Farm, which, in the words of Christopher Hitchens, showed a hatred for tyranny plus a love for animals in the English countryside. This book reprints 11 diaries starting in 1931 when he was 25 and ending in 1952, shortly before his death from TB. The diaries reveal more of the man, as good diaries do, and gives him some flesh and blood, so to speak. For instance, when he was in the hospital, he brought his favorite fishing poles, which he kept in his hospital room in the hope of using them again, but sadly he never did. The diaries cover the years just before the publication of Down and Out in Paris and London, which I've talked about on the show, as well as his trips to Morocco and his impressions of World War II, which fills up 3 entire diaries. The second book is called James Joyce, A New Biography by George Bowker. Joyce is one of those authors I wouldn't recommend to everyone, but he's a great author to read about. And in Ireland, he's a god. I mean, he appears on their money and there are landmarks dedicated to him all throughout Dublin. And while taking on Joyce's prose is a challenge, taking him on as a biographer is a challenge as well, because over 50 years ago, literary critic Richard Ellman wrote what has become the definitive biography on Joyce. Ellman had access to many of those close to the author and was a fine writer in his own right. Bowker, who has also written a biography on Orwell, focuses on telling the story in a straightforward manner, unlike Joyce himself. Now, Joyce was in his prime just after the turn of the century and was incredibly open about his sexuality, which his letters to his lover Nora show. So much so I can't really get into it here. I mean, it's Sunday morning. The story of Joyce's life is relatively well documented, but this biography provides a fresh look at the author. And if you so dare, check out Joyce on your own. I recommend The Dubliners. So there you go, a couple of new books about a couple of great authors, James Joyce and George Orwell. As always, you are welcome.
O holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth.
That was, of course, Jim Maloof singing to us and our viewers during a Christmas time program last year. It was indeed one of the highlights of our first year on the air. In that program, we previewed the Journal Star Christmas Sing, which the former mayor has been leading for 44 years. It was one of many events that we previewed during the year. Others included the annual Santa Claus Parade and big events at the Civic Center. We also had shows about events that were of a very serious nature and affected many of us, such as the Komen Race for the Cure or Whitney's Walk for Life. Another discussed the Don't Shoot program that was recently launched by the city of Peoria in conjunction with Peoria County State's Attorney and Sheriff and the U.S. Attorney. We had Mayor Jim Ardis on our program to discuss Don't Shoot when he first proposed it. Here is a clip from that episode. How was it first brought to Peoria, to you?
Well, Tate Chambers, who's one of our local U.S. attorneys, spent a significant amount of time out at the Department of Justice over the last 2 or 3 years. And he saw this program and a lot of other programs that the Department of Justice runs throughout the country. Because of the focus that the Don't Shoot emphasizes gun crime and the rising number of gun crimes in Peoria, he thought there'd be a good match there, and he brought this to us for consideration.
During your State of the City address, you mentioned the tragic drive-by shooting that took the life of 8-year-old Albert Bellops. Was that also one of the things that drove this?
It was. That was just another one of the really senseless, gun crimes that happened last year. But you don't take any of them lightly, and you hear of more incidents of crimes that involve guns. But when you have a young person like Albert that was a victim in a terrible situation, I think it just puts more weight on it. But on the law enforcement side, as they continue to try to determine who actually fired the gun that killed him, there was a lot of things that became evident to the police department, that there were some of the players involved with that are some pretty hardcore people that are involved in a number of illegal activities in the community, and I think that's definitely put weight for not only local law enforcement but other agencies to look at some of these people that are frankly terrorizing parts of our city.
Don't Shoot was launched several weeks ago, and already the city reports there is progress. We will continue to follow that story as it unfolds. We also will follow politics to a degree. Since politics is such a fluid story, it is difficult for a weekly TV show that is recorded in advance to bring the latest information to our viewers. But there will be some issues we'll talk about. One will probably be pension reform in Illinois. You may recall that we had State Senator Darren LaHood here in June to talk about the state budget and the General Assembly spring session. Senator LaHood told us at the time that the lack of progress on pension reform was a disappointment from the spring session, and he was looking forward to something happening with it before the fall veto session. Well, that fall session doesn't happen until November, but still to date, there has been no progress on pension reform. We had other politicians join us during our first year, including U.S. Rep. Aaron Schock, who discussed the President's jobs bill and other issues that were before Congress. State Representative Jahan Gordon joined us to talk state politics and finances late last fall. And just before the primary season for the 2012 presidential race began, we had the Peoria County leaders of the two top parties, Republican Rudy Lewis and Democrat Billy Halstead, come on the program to talk about the presidential campaign, even though we, at the time, had no idea who the Republican nominee would be. The last weeks of the presidential campaign should be exciting. You can bet we will follow it, at least on our website, thepeorian.com. During the coming year, as the Peorian continues to mature, you will likely see a few changes in format and coverage. For example, We plan to occasionally focus on some of the region's homegrown retailers and small businesses. We want to look more closely at some of the towns that make up the Peoria region and what makes them special. But we will still bring to you the issues that affect us all, with a mix of event previews and season previews that will help you plan your schedules. Thank you for joining us today. I hope in the brief time that we had that you enjoyed watching us recap our first year. And we at the Peorian hope that we've convinced you that we are worth watching. If so, spread the word. We'll be back next Sunday to start our second year with another episode at 8 a.m. on WHOI TV and on our website, thepeorian.com. And don't forget you can watch this and previous episodes on our website as well. Have a good week.
Música